everyone, my name is SeaTactics, for the one otherwise known as Ben, and today we're here to talk about some manga I've been reading over these past, I don't know, some of these go back like 2 months, the second one does. These two are very recent, probably within the last week, but this is just really called manga recommendations because I realized that I read a little bit more manga than I actually review, and I want to talk about some of these. And some people also recommend me manga that are newer. The first one we'll be talking about is recommended by Revoiced Ravi. Rivost Ravi? You know, I'm dyslexic, I think. It's really hard to read. Some of these manga that are recommended by people are short, or some of these are really short in general, some of the ones that I've read. The last one on the list is one that I read, and it was only 7 chapters long, so some of them don't merit, at least right now, a full-fledged review, so I'd like to talk about them a little bit, and they're kind of like recommendations in a weird way, and I'll say if, you know, I should recommend them, and some of them I just want to talk about in general. So the first one on the list we're going to talk about, that's an example of that. But this is new, this is a new series, and I'm not going to talk for much longer, so I just want to say, if you like this kind of idea, please show your support. You can do that by liking the video if you don't want to comment, but if you want to comment, tell me, what are some things you'd like to see in this, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know. Tell me how you'd like to see this series done, or if there's any recommendations where it's like, hey, this is kind of like quality of life improvements, maybe do this by the next episode. These won't be coming out, you know, like every week. These won't be maybe even coming out every month. They just come out every time I built up a little bit of backlog of manga that I'm not talking about. And I may do this for anime, I probably won't. I don't watch enough anime in general to have a backlog. I spend all of my time watching recommendations and basically watching the new seasons. Let's get into the actual bulk of the video and the reason you probably clicked on it. So the first one I want to talk about, not necessarily recommend, but the first one I want to talk about is Arifureta Shokugyo de Sekai Saikyo. I butchered that. I know I did. I know for a fact I did. Just call it Arifureta, I guess. I guess is what we'll call it. I forget the actual English title, but that name remains the same even in the English title. So, what is it? Well, this manga was recommended to me by Rivost Ravi, and I must say that I am impressed. The visuals on display in this manga are extraordinary. There really is a lot of detail in this. And at the same time, we do trade off a little bit of that detail for unclear fighting in some panels. And it's not a lot. It happens on at least 2 occasions that I can remember. It's a little hard to follow, and it's a little bit of a mess. But then again, there is only like 15 chapters of this manga as I'm doing this video, so it's, you know, you can't really, I guess, criticize it on that right now, but as for the story, it's pretty simple. Man gets teleported to a parallel world, except he's not fighting cabbages. He gets his arm ripped off by a hell beast and decides to eat it to get revenge. But when he eats it, he notices that the different creatures have different powers, and if he consumes them, he gains those powers and levels up. So, while trapped in this cave, he decides to kill and eat literally just about anything and everything. At one point, he eats like this thing, this worm thing covered in like black tar and oil, and he gains powers from that. I forget which one. It's pretty cool. It's very gruesome. But surprisingly though, when he's traveling through this cave, he goes into a room and he notices it's very kind of modern almost in a way, and he finds a woman that is trapped within this slab of rock. So he uses one of his abilities that he got from eating a creature to basically turn this rock, I think it looks like he turns it into liquid, which frees her from her prison, and through this they have to fight off a creature, which is a really cool, awesome fight. Very well visually done. I enjoy it a lot. It's a very great, well done fight. There's some cool moments in there, and he basically finds out she's a vampire because she doesn't have any kind of strength in her. She hasn't, I guess, had any blood in a while, so she's weak, and she's like, hey, let me borrow some of that blood you got there. And yeah, they find out that she is a vampire, and from there I think it gets pretty interesting. I'm not going to say much more, but if you like badass characters fighting fantastical creatures, then this is probably for you. Both the female and the main male MC, both of them work together and have these awesome, really cool, badass fights. It reminds me a lot of Berserk in a lot of ways. It gets to that kind of level of power-up kind of thing. I wouldn't say it's power-up, because that makes it seem more shonen-esque. It's like Berserk. I can't really describe it that well other than that it feels like Berserk, and how, not necessarily violent it is, but in how well the fighting is portrayed and how well things are sold. Like, for example, the main character gets his arm sliced off, and within like moments it sells that pain visually and through his dialogue, and from there he's like trapped within this cocoon of rock that he made himself, because another thing in the story is that they have these special powers when they get teleported to this world, and he's drinking from this water, and this water like keeps him alive because it's like rejuvenating water. It's kind of like a health potion in weird ways, and he's like got this phantom pain, and it's really cool. And he decides to break out of this coffin of rock and just kill this creature that took his arm. It's a really awesome thing. And speaking of Berserk, there's a lot of parallels between the main character of this and Guts in Berserk, in that they both have one arm and they both lose their eye. So that's kind of interesting. You kind of see where the inspirations are. I wouldn't say it's necessarily Berserk-like. It's got a different feel to it, but there's just so many parallels between it and Berserk. I mean, another one is the main female lead. She kind of wears for a little while, maybe about 2 or 3 or 4 chapters, kind of rags, and it looks like it's like his shirt or whatever. No, it's like some rag he uses to carry equipment, and it's kind of the same thing that Casca wears through most of the manga after the Golden Age arc. So it's different, lots of parallels, but a lot of different things going on there. But buyer beware, I did some research on this manga. I've heard that after chapter 40, this manga turns into a generic harem anime manga. Now, remember, these are things I've heard from other people, but I've been informed that it's so bad that it's been compared to something worse than High School DxD, which is extremely disappointing, because honestly, for the first 15 chapters that are out in English right now that are translated, by the way, this is all fan translated right now, the manga is, it was more than promising. It showed the signs of being a modern day classic. That's how good it was. And believe me when I say this manga is stellar in the first 15 chapters that I've read. It's a little dumb in the first 5 chapters a little bit, but at the same time it was so good I was ready to give this manga a recommendation. But with the information that after chapter 40 it's outright just dragged through the mud and completely ruined, and so they can just tap into that otaku money, I cannot give this manga a recommendation. But I can give you a suggestion on how to read it. And if you do want to read this manga, only read 40 chapters, or search up more about this on how much to read. Because otherwise you're going to be really disappointed, and it may ruin the whole story for you. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read up until that point, and I'm going to quit reading. But thank you, Rivost Ravi, for recommending that. It's actually a very good recommendation. Recommendations like that is the kind of thing I like. Things that come out of nowhere and surprise me. I know it's like some SAO alternate parallel world thing, but and that's been overdone. I'm reading another one right now called Shield Hero, but you know, if it's good, I'll read it. I don't really care how kind of generic it is. Just surprise me. That's the thing I say. You got any surprisingly good manga? Surprise me with it. Hit me hard with those manga. I don't mind. Next up is one that comes from myself, and that is Oretama. I will not say the title of this in English for fear that YouTube may strike down the ban hammer on me. But now to warn you all straight up, this is one of those hardcore ecchi manga that really toe the line between hentai and manga. So if you plan to watch this, there we go again. So if you plan to read this, be aware this may not be for everyone because of its nudity and sexual themes. But the reason I'm here to inform you all on this manga is because it's laugh out loud hilarious, to be honest. There really isn't a plot to this anime to speak of. It's really just the title of the manga itself being the plot, but I'll try to explain. It's a lot like My Bride is a Mermaid, if you've seen that anime or read it. It's about a guy that after a night of drinking goes to urinate outside, but where he decides to urinate is a bit of a problem. He decides to urinate on a ball that has the leader of hell trapped within it. But to make matters worse, he is urinating in the middle of a ritual to transport this woman to inside this ball once and for all. But instead, she is now transported to the stream of his urinations into his testicles and is trapped inside of them. Because of this, hell sends its finest women, a lot of them being demi-humans and monsters, one of them a mummy, I believe, to basically get him to ejaculate the leader of hell out from within his testicles to destroy Earth and eliminate the human race. But for some reason, this can only take place in the month of July. So after July, this guy's safe. He can ejaculate whenever he wants and release her from his sticky prison, I guess. I can easily recommend Oretama to just about anyone, to be honest. Once again, if you don't like ecchi, then I'm not going to recommend it to you. You probably want to skip out on it, but if you don't mind nudity and sexual themes and like really funny jokes and scenarios, then this is 100% for you. Oretama may not be perfect. The story is kind of paper thin, and the characters are characterized more like in the sense that they just like to have sex. That's all the characters, really, but sometimes they're not, I guess, but the jokes and comedy more than make up for its shortcomings in that regard. But not only that, the art is quite well made. It's a little on the old side of things. It's an older manga. It's from the early aughts, the mid-aughts, late aughts, I don't know. But it's really good, all things considered, not taking into account nudity, as that's more of a personal preference to a lot of people. I'm not anywhere near as interested in that. The art here is pretty solid. The character designs are very unique and well drawn. Like Arifureta, it's quite clean, and the ecchi aesthetic really helps this one along in certain areas. If I can name a downfall of the art, it's for sure the backgrounds, though. It's well drawn and all, but it seems kind of generic, all things considered, whereas the character designs are outstanding comparing the two. So, yeah, I'm recommending Oretama to anyone who's interested in that sort of thing. It's, like I said, it's highly sexual, but there's some great moments. And I want to give you an example of a moment. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but, this is a great one. To keep himself from ejaculating, because I think your name is Emmanuel, or Emmanuel? Manuel. She's basically trapped, I think, in his left testicle. So he's in the middle of a situation, and he can't hold it in. So he takes the string and he ties one shut. So I thought that was quite hilarious. It was a really funny moment in the manga. It made me laugh out loud in the middle of the night, because I read this in the middle of the night, so probably woke some people up. The last manga I want to talk about today, well, it isn't exactly a manga, it's actually a manhwa from Korea, which is technically the same thing as a manga. It reads like a manga, and it looks a little different from a manga, but it's a manhwa. This is a short one, though, just 7 chapters, and it follows a man that lost his wife, and almost immediately afterwards meets a young woman on a train and falls in love with her. Not much else to say other than that, but it's a very, very well-written manhwa that, you know, if you're into romance, then this is really something you want to check out. But like I said, it's short and sweet, not even 10 chapters long, and it's, granted, it's still not a perfect story, but in 7 chapters, it captures the feeling of the story perfectly and delivers on its promise in the beginning, which is giving a romance manhwa to the people of Korea and beyond. So I can easily recommend this to just about everyone watching this video right now. It's easy, it's an easy read. The art is very well clean and very clean and simple. Maybe not the best, as it's not really the point of it. So you're not going to get like super in-depth detail like you are going to get from Arifureta. You may just hate that. That may be something you don't enjoy. But the pacing is indeed a little fast, but I also feel the story kind of calls for the fast pacing. So it's a lot. It's like, you know how Half and Half was when I did the review of Half and Half. One of the many complaints I got in the comments was that it was too short. It was too quick. Needed a little bit more characterizations and a little bit more in-depth stuff. It's kind of the same thing for Once Again, since it being 7 chapters, but you'll see what I mean once you get to the point of the story. Like, it makes sense. It's short and sweet. But if you like romance, definitely check it out. If you like people touching butts and kissing, then, you know, why not? Why not? You like that kind of thing? Whatever. So this is the part of the video where I say thank you for watching, but not only that, I say, hey, recommend me some manga, some short manga, some long manga. I don't have a lot of manga on this list, so you might as well recommend me some manga to read. And then I may do a video on it. I may do one of these videos on it again, you know. I may. So thanks for rap host. Anyways, yeah, I'll see you guys later. My name is SeaTactics. Read some manga. Why not?